Good evening and welcome to the December meeting of the Eastchester Board of Fire Commissioners. We started tonight's meeting at 6:30, immediately went into executive session, and the time, we are now starting the regular meeting. The time is now 7:51 p.m. I'd like to start tonight's meeting with our treasurer's report from our treasurer, Jamie Hedstrom.
All right, tonight we're looking at the financials through November 30th of 2018. They're currently showing a net budget surplus of approximately $410,000. This is with expenses being under budget by $350,000 and income being over by about $60,000. This is an increase from last month, which is predominantly due to our New York State retirement system bill. We talked about it last month that it did come in materially lower than expected. All of our other accounts right now are trending as expected, with the exception of overtime, which we'll kind of focus on again tonight. So to date, we have had 4 budget transfers to the overtime line. The last one being at the November meeting, which was just for a small amount. Every time we did an overtime estimate, we said that, you know, it was assuming no additional long-term injuries or absences, and we did have some additional long-term absences come up. So now we're going to have 4 long-term absences for the remainder of the year, which does impact the budget, what we had estimated we would spend. The other thing is that we're looking at funding the overtime line through the end of the calendar year, not through the end of what our payroll year is. So that does add on an additional 2+ weeks of overtime. So at this point, we have about $45,000 left in our budget for the remainder of the year. With between the absences and all of the float days that are left and some vacations planned, I would like to request, our calculations show we probably need about another $41,000 of overtime. Just to be on the safe side, I'd like to request that we transfer $50,000. This could be funded from the New York State retirement line, as we talked about the bill coming in lower than expected. So that would be line 9010.8, a transfer to the overtime firefighter line 3413.1.
Okay. I guess we're going to talk about the auditor RFP in a minute, but maybe we'll just take up the motion on the overtime first. Does anybody want to discuss it?
Well, it's certainly an important issue for sure. Over $800,000 in overtime. It puts us in a very difficult position. I know the president of the local 916 came up in the October meeting saying, oh, you know, if you're going to close companies, make sure you do this or do that. Don't just close the Garth Road. He came up with very good reason. We just had a major fire on Garth Road. It's not anyone even wants to think about, you know, putting the citizens of Eastchester at risk, putting our firefighters at risk. But also there has to be a line of reasoning where it can be controlled. We're making an assessment on an annual basis. What should we budget for overtime? For several years, we ran low. We didn't hire the firefighters that we should have. We filled those ranks. We've hired 5 firefighters this year. And yet nothing has changed. It's kind of distressing. I mean, unfortunately, when they make the resolution, we're most likely going to vote yes, but we're not going to do it lightheartedly. We're going to do it with safety of the citizens of Eastchester in mind, and we need help working with our employees to make sure that we have our units staffed, that our citizens are safe, that they're safe, and it's affordable. That's what I'll say.
Okay. You know, the only other thing I would add to that is, you know, there's 2 kinds of sick calls. There are line of duty sick calls, and then there's non-line of duty sick calls. And the thing that I've been focused on in this meeting has been non-line of duty, the stuff that are the one-offs. You know, somebody sprains their ankle while home, they've got a cough, the flu, their child care falls through. And those numbers, in my opinion, have been excessively high relative to what's experienced in comparable departments. We've had it as high as 7%. The good news is it's been trending lower more recently. Line of duty injuries, you know, that they occur. People get injured while fighting fires. As long as we believe that our staff is physically fit and capable of responding, things happen, and whatever those numbers are, I certainly believe the department should fund it, whatever the cost. It's the non-line of duty sick rates that really have been a big issue for me. So anyway, we'll vote for this now, and but I do think it's something that the board really needs to be vigilant about and stay focused on next year. For the first time since I've been on the board, we're going to enter the coming year fully staffed in every rank. So firefighters, captains, lieutenants, right? Full complement of staff. Our annual budget number, you know, if we end up blowing through that next year, there's something really wrong with, you know, again, if it's caused by non-line of duty sick rates, something wrong is happening. So that said, I will now move to make a motion to transfer $50,000 from budget line 9010.8 New York State Retirement to budget line 3413.1 overtime firefighters. Can I have someone make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. And I'll poll the board. Commissioner Rabin?
Aye.
Commissioner Laurie?
Aye.
Commissioner Roach?
Aye.
I'm going to say no. Motion carries. Okay. Jamie, can you maybe talk a little bit about our RFP for
Sure.
auditing services?
Yeah, so this year we went out for RFP for our audit services, so that's our year-end financial statement audit. We are required every 5 years by the New York State Comptroller's Office to go out for RFP. It's a totally different process than when we go out for a competitive bidding because it's a professional service. We are not required to go with the lowest bidder. The requirements are different. So we put out an RFP. We received 2 responses, one from our current auditors who are BST & Co., and one from another audit firm that was historically our auditors, PKF O'Connor Davies. Both proposals were complete. The price-wise, they came in almost identical. There's a $500 difference over a 5-year period. There's also, as for the first couple of years, there's no increase from what we're paying currently. We pay $15,000 a year in audit fees, so there's no increase in, you know, for 18 or 19. You know, both obviously are firms that are capable. You know, they both have a lot of fire district clients. You know, however, so really what we consider here is, you know, who's, you know, better suited for the Eastchester Fire District. We've had a great relationship with BST & Co. Again, we didn't go out for RFP because we were unhappy with them. We went out because we were required to. They do provide a lot of additional valuable services. They're available year-round, so it's not just that they come in for the audit and then we don't talk to them again. They really are there for consulting and one-off questions, and they're never, you know, they included that in their proposal, which is a huge value add. So when you actually do look at the dollars, there is more value to their proposal. I think they're great to work with. I think that they have a lot of institutional knowledge of our fire district from the time that they've spent here with us. And so, you know, my recommendation would be to stay with them for the next 5-year term and accept their proposal. So that's what I'm recommending.
Okay. My only comment is that we've had no issues. We've all been updated by Jamie regularly over the years since she's been here on the performance of this auditor. I think I certainly agree with Jamie's recommendation, would go that way. Does anybody else want to say anything?
I agree wholeheartedly.
And the cost is comparable, correct?
Yes, right. There's really no difference. And like I said, if you look at the sort of additional services that they include in their proposal, it actually, you are getting more from them for the same amount. So.
Okay, so I want to make a motion to accept BST. Be it resolved, the Eastchester Fire District authorizes the chairman to execute a contract to retain the services of BST and Company for auditing services for the year 2018 through 2022 at a total cost of $77,000. The annual cost is as follows: 2016, $15,000; 2017, $15,000; 2018, $15,000; 2019, $15,500; 2019, $50,500; and 2020, $16,000. I will make the motion. Do I get a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll poll the board. Commissioner Rabin?
Aye.
Commissioner Laurie?
Aye.
Commissioner Roach?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Motion carries. Okay, Jamie, we can execute that.
Okay, great. And then otherwise, just other updates. So at next month's meeting, I will recommend that year-end budget transfers. So those are like the line items where we know that an individual line item has gone over. So some areas where we anticipated this year, so we did some additional spending. We'll just, I'll make those recommendations at next month's meeting to kind of close out our budget for 2018. And then going into the season, Medicare Part B reimbursements will be going out to our retirees next week. And then we get into our 1099, so I'll be working on that in December and January, and our Affordable Care Act reporting. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's pay the bills now. Nice segue after the treasurer's report. The board has reviewed the bills and warrants and makes a motion to pay them. I will make the motion. It's 3 sets of warrants and a credit card bill. First set of warrants dated 11/26/18 for $217,033.18. Second set of warrants dated 12/10/18 for $2,160. Third set of warrants dated 12/13/18 for $191,090.96, and a credit card bill dated 12/18/18 for $2,607.98. Do I get a second?
Second.
And I will poll the board. Commissioner Roach?
Aye.
Commissioner Laurie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rabin?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Motion carries. Bills can be paid. Okay, we'll now have our chief's report by Chief Tween.
Thank you, Commissioner. November 2018, alarm activity was 328 alarms for the month. We had 9 fire-related calls, 168 EMS or rescue calls. We gave mutual aid to the City of Mount Vernon one time and Pelham Manor Fire Department one time, and we did not receive any mutual aid in the month of November. The Station 4 exterior project is continuing. All the windows appear to be installed at this time. They still have some trim work to do at numerous locations. Next week, our radio vendor is relocating the repeater antennas off the side of the building, and they're going to mount them on the roof in a different location that was picked out when they did the roofing. There's a stanchion there for them to attach the antennas to, so that'll be done next week. November continued with 2 members still out on long-term absences. 1 member was injured at the Garth Road fire and will be out at least until January 8th when he gets reevaluated. And as of this week, unfortunately, 2 more members are out for 4 to 6 weeks recovering from surgical procedures. So there's basically 4 people out on long-term injury through January. And as you mentioned, we will have full staffing, but we will not get the members that are in the fire academy until January 27th, I believe is their graduation, or 25th, whatever that last Friday in January is. And so they'll be on the line in February. So that'll help. And also just that there's very few vacations in January. That will also help. These probably won't create overtime once we get into the new year. Vehicle maintenance continues through the use of Ruscon. As I mentioned last month, Pelham Fire Department borrowed our ladder 15, our spare ladder, on November 30th, and they're going to be returning it tomorrow, so they kept it to 2 weeks. They appreciated it very much. Tim Dalton has been working on numerous repairs and painting projects, and he's been working down at Station 4 to facilitate ongoing construction, such as relocating wires and clearing up various issues. He's also been working on getting quotes for the Station 4 heating system because it's in poor condition right now. Fire prevention and code enforcement activities continue, with Captain Pinneval conducting numerous plan reviews and inspections, and the members have gone on numerous Santa details and holiday lighting details for the community. The 3 Pierce fire engines are anticipated to be completed around January 18th. Myself and Captain Stupple will travel to Wisconsin factory for the final inspection. Once we approve it, they will then deliver them to the dealership in Paterson, New York for tool mounting and radio installation. So we should have them in service by February, sometime in February. Earlier this year, the Safety Committee, we agreed with the union that Ladder 17 should have a defibrillator. Currently, it's the only apparatus in our fleet that does not have a defibrillator. And, you know, sometimes they go on calls by themselves. Should they come upon somebody in cardiac arrest, they would not be able to use the defibrillator, which is the best chance that people have for survival. So I would like to purchase one on the New York State contract. The defibrillator, the case, and the accessories we would need are approximately $14.31 on the New York State contract. And I would also like to purchase a high-rise nozzle. It costs $2,500. It's used on difficult apartment house buildings, such as the one we had on Garth Road. If eventually we were not able to make an interior attack on that, we could have attacked the fire from the floor below with the high-rise nozzle. Several departments have them: Yonkers, New Rochelle, New York City, and I think it would be a great benefit for us because a lot of our buildings on Garth Road are not accessible by ladders just because they're set back to Garth Road. So I think it would be a really good thing. So just looking, I guess, for the okay to purchase that. It's only offered by one vendor. It's not something that I can get 3 separate prices on. There's only one company that makes them. They designed them, they created them, and so I won't be able to do the 3 pricing. It's just, you know, they make it, and that's what it is. And then finally, I would like to thank Commissioner Incledon for his 5 years of service to the district. I feel we have made a lot of progress over this last year, including the Station 4 renovations, apparatus purchases, promotions, and hiring of the members. I think all that has moved the department in a positive direction. So thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, actually, regarding my departure from the board, since I'm going to be leaving on Jan 1, I'd like to do some housekeeping to have a smooth transition. Last year, I believe it was September, could have been early October, we passed what's called a point of contact resolution, which basically is the point person in dealing with all legal matters in our law firm, Coughlin and Gerhardt. This is the primary contact. He then shares information to other board members. It was, put in place as an important safeguard to help us efficiently manage our legal resources. And I hope that this resolution stays in place with the next board when it convenes in January. However, for right now, what I would like to do is change that primary contact person from me to someone else on the board. So just as a refresher, this is the motion that we passed last year. And it read, the board shall appoint one member of the board who shall be the point of contact with legal counsel, which member shall be the only member with authority to contact legal counsel. Other board members may write or email the point of contact with legal questions. All emails or written communications shall be copied to the entire Board of Fire Commissioners. With prior approval from the point of contact and the Board of Fire Commissioners, other board members may contact legal counsel directly. If someone other than the point of contact reaches out to legal counsel, they are instructed to email the entire Board of Fire Commissioners about the contact. The Board of Fire Commissioners may change this to procedure or point of contact by motion at a regularly scheduled board meeting, and if necessary, designate a temporary point person as contact, especially if the original point of contact is unable to proceed, illness, vacation, conflicts of interest, etc. That would be me. The one thing I would say about this resolution that we passed, roughly a week to 2 weeks after we passed it, I gave prior approval to anyone on the board to contact counsel for any reason whatsoever. So all of the other protocols that are set forth in this motion have been followed. However, anyone who's been on the board has been able to contact legal counsel for any reason, and that has happened. So, effectively, like I said, I'm going to be leaving the board on January 1st. I think it's better if somebody else is a point person to receive information from counsel. I will open this up to discussion. You know, Stu has been very involved in a lot of the things that I've been involved in. I would recommend that from now until the end of the year, Stu take on this position. When the new board meets for the reorg, they can certainly reevaluate at that point and figure out how they want to proceed. But I would like to make that motion, and I would...
I'll second it.
Okay, and then I will
I would
pull...
just because under discussion, like you said, I would want the public and the board to also understand that the caveat that Peter just spoke about, as far as the contact and the ability of all members to be able to continue doing what we've been doing so far, should remain in contact, in active status through the end of the year. So I don't want there to be any confusion that anything is changing. The only thing is changing is presumably the contact, not the policy.
Right. Okay.
And I disagree. I don't think we should have this policy. I think we should have a policy. This isn't it. I think the policy we should have is that the lawyers should contact the entire board. That when a commissioner wants to contact a lawyer or a contractor or a professional service, that he should include the entire board in that email. That we shouldn't have individual emails going back between lawyers and one commissioner. We shouldn't have individual emails going back and forward to professional services to one commissioner. All commissioners should be receiving all emails.
Correct.
Tom, you know, certainly you're entitled to that opinion, and I respect that. For right now, we're just trying to get from today until the end of the year.
So I'm saying abolish that, have the lawyer contact us all. He has all our emails. When he wants to contact us, have him contact the entire board by email. And if a commissioner wants to contact a lawyer or professional service, have him CC all commissioners in that email.
Which this policy does present. It presents the requirement for board members to have to CC all members on communication going out, and the attorney's requirement to CC all commissioners on communication coming in. But we want to...
it then.
Right, well, that's what we've been having.
And all we're looking to do is change the point of contact person. Listen, like I said, you know, if you want to pursue that, that's fine. I do think you have a new board member coming on next year. I think you have Dennis. Yeah, Dennis is off the board. Why not? Excuse me, not off the board. Dennis is not here tonight. Excuse me. Why not take up the concept of abolish, you know, of next meeting? All right. Okay. So for now, we'll just change the point of contact. So.
But you got a motion on the floor.
I made the motion. Anthony seconded. So I would say Commissioner Laurie.
Aye.
I am an aye. Commissioner Roach.
No.
And Commissioner Raven.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, discussion and adoption of sexual harassment and workplace violence policies. Okay, the New York State 2019 Budget Act added new legislation to address and combat sexual harassment in the workplace. Among other things, the new legislation limits the use of non-disclosure agreements in the context of sexual harassment, removes any requirement from a bargaining agreement for an employee to submit to mandatory arbitration to resolve any allegation of sexual harassment, and adds a new section to the New York human rights law that prohibits sexual harassment of non-employees in the workplace, i.e. contractors, vendors, etc. Additionally, the legislation requires that any employer in New York State adopt a new sexual harassment prevention policy which shall prohibit sexual harassment and provide examples of prohibited conduct, include information on federal and state statutory provisions and remedies available, include standard complaint form and procedure for investigation, clearly state that sexual harassment is considered a form of employee misconduct, and clearly state that that retaliation is unlawful. So this new sexual harassment policy is rather lengthy, rather comprehensive. Everyone on the board has had an opportunity to review it. There's also a sexual harassment complaint form that accompanies this. There is someone that is identified as the point person as part of this policy. I think For the time being, if we move to adopt this policy, which is what I would like to do tonight, I would suggest that we have Chief Tween be the primary contact, and if it involves an allegation against the chief, which would never happen, it would be our treasurer, Jamie Hedstrom. So that's how I would propose that we do this. I'll open it up for discussion.
Yeah, I have nothing against what you said. I did comment the email, and I didn't receive any comments back from it. But, and I understand we have to have a name. But this is a pretty sensitive area, and I thought what I had said, I would propose putting a person you feel comfortable with, and then training all the individuals within the department, which I think has to happen anyhow, that if some employee of Eastchester Fire Department comes to you and says, this happened to me, that person then will assume responsibility to make sure the point person, chief team, or Jamie is. In other words, just putting one person might inhibit the reporting. But if a person could go to somebody that they're comfortable with, it may assist it. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot now throughout all society, and I'm just trying to address that. I would have rather done that briefly over mail or an executive.
I think, listen, we haven't rolled out the formal training, and we haven't done the training. I think both the chief and the treasurer have reviewed these policies and are fully aware and informed. Those contact people can be changed in the future. So I would still recommend that we go forward this way. Certainly, if someone doesn't feel comfortable going to a man or a woman, then they go to you know, Jamie or the chief, or vice versa. But I do think that, you know, there is, like I said, a complaint form that has to be kind of explained, the rights of the policy, and I think at this point it's more appropriate to designate two people who are familiar with, you know, the policy as point people, and then once this training takes place. So that's how I would propose we move forward on this tonight. And if you want to take up training everyone to be able to receive a complaint going forward, certainly the board could do that. And I would also consult with our attorneys on that, because I can think of a couple of things. I don't want to start, you know, speculating, but a couple of things, you know, would raise some concerns for me with doing that. So I think the attorney should be consulted as well. So, with that said, I will make the motion. While the Eastchester Fire District currently has a sexual harassment policy, this policy needs to be updated or replaced to meet the new standards in New York State that became effective this year. Therefore, I make a motion to repeal the current Eastchester Fire District sexual, gender-based, and anti-harassment policy adopted on May 25th, 2016, and replace it with the Eastchester Fire District sexual harassment policy dated December 13th, 2018. Do I get a second?
I'll second it.
And I will poll the board. Commissioner Roach?
Aye.
I am an aye. Commissioner Laurie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rabin?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Fire district election. Okay. The district held its annual election for commissioner on December 11th. This year's election was uncontested. The winner of the election was Paul J. Carlo of Eastchester. On behalf of the board, I would like to congratulate Paul on joining the board. Okay. Later on, we'll open it up to public comment. Maybe if you'd like, you could say a few things.
On the election, I got to say something on this. Paul, my congratulations to you. I worked these elections for about 15 years. And while we started the election, we designated one worker, when the election is over, that they bring the tallies up to headquarters, which was Waverly. What I seen the other night, that Calby, and Lisa went around to every district and picked it up. That is not the way it's done. Like I said, one person is supposed to be delegated to bring that back to the headquarters with the tally. John Jones got 200, Bill Smith got 20 votes, and that's how they get the election results. From what I gathered, the ladies or the men, whoever was in these election districts, whichever poll they were at, said that they don't get enough to bring it back. Well, if that's the case, then we'll get someone else to take your place. That's part of your job, whether you get $50, $100, or $25, whatever the amount is, and whatever shift you're working. At the end of the evening, one person from each one of those polling districts brings the tally back. That's it. Lisa and the captain had to go around from Tuckahoe to Bronxville, to Leroy Gregory, to the town, and pick them all up to the community center in Tuckahoe. That is not the way it's done. That's the first time I saw that done, and I told Lisa and the captain, that is not your job to do that. And I don't want to see that done next year, I don't care who runs. That is not the way it's done. That process has been like this for 100 years. In 15 years that I worked the polls, I worked them down here in Bronxville, I worked in Tuckahoe, I worked Chester Heights, I even worked up in Leroy Gregory one year. That's the way it's done. And next year, I do not want to see that. And when Lisa gives the instructions to these people, I told her to tell the people at that meeting the night before, that's the way it's done. The process, the way it used to be done, the board attorney, the secretary, and one volunteer used to go around to every district, make sure everything was going okay, and the secretary brought the check to each individual person. And they were told at that time, whoever was designated, whether it was Mike, Joe, Mary, your turn, we'll expect you to bring the tallies back. That's the way the process is done. Thank you.
Okay. Discussion of Chester Heights renovation. We have received 2 change orders from BJB for work that was not part of the original contract, but the need for the work became apparent as unforeseen conditions became apparent. One change order, labeled number 3, was to replace painted wood trim on several windows. The condition of this trim after removal to install the windows was quite poor, and there was a high likelihood that it had been coated with lead paint. We didn't want to reinstall them. They were just too poor. So we went ahead with this change order. The chief, which has a discretionary budget for such items, this was kind of an important thing to do because of the condition of the trim itself and the need to get it back up after the windows were installed. The second change order, which we're going to discuss now and vote on, is for $7,650. This is broken down into 2 parts, $2,860 to replace 6 box beams, girders on the front and south facades that could not be salvaged, and $4,790 to remove and replace a large window set on the north facade. When the window was removed, it was clear that the frame was completely rotted, had to be rebuilt, which was quite involved given the structure of the house with the block and brick on the outside. We've had our architects, FSI, review both change orders for both their necessity and the market pricing, and they have recommended that we approve them. With that, I am going to make a motion to approve change order number 2 from BJB on the Eastchester Fire District Station 4 facade and window restoration project as described in the amended change order request number 2 for a sum of $7,650. I will make that motion. Do I get a second?
Second.
And I will poll the board. Commissioner Roach?
Aye.
I am an aye. Commissioner Laurie?
Aye.
Commissioner Raven?
Aye.
Motion carries. Not really much to discuss on the legal front. Stu, do you want to say anything about the IT work, or do you want to hold off till?
No, I think we're just still waiting for some final numbers and information coming through. We'll probably revisit that in January.
Okay, fair enough. So now, public comments? 916 comments? Okay. I have a few comments that I'd like to make. May take about 5 minutes, but it's
Paul understood. Public comments were for you.
A few moments, sure.
Yes.
yeah, sure.
I am correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, hello. First of all, I want to thank everybody who came out to support me in the election. I know it was uncontested, a little lackluster, but nonetheless, I did appreciate the support from the town, neighbors and friends. I know most of you guys from town anyway. Thank you, Peter, for the 5 years you've given to the board. I'm looking forward to being a part of this process. I've been in this town nearly my entire life. I came here in 1969, and except for a brief 10-year stint in Yonkers, I came back in 95. We raised my family here, my daughter, my wife, and I went to high school here and graduated. So needless to say, we love this town. We think it's a great town to grow up in, to raise a family. And it's a great fire department. It's a great town, period. Not just the fire department, but all the services we offer to the people of this town. So I think it's, like I said, feel very fortunate to have been here my entire life, and I want to give back to the town, and hopefully we can move forward and just make it even better than it is today. So thank you for your time, and thank you for everything and for your support. And again, I look forward to working with you guys in January. Thank you.
Okay.
Congratulations,
Thank you, Paul. Congratulations. Okay. Since this is my last meeting on the Eastchester Board of Fire Commissioners, I'd like to make a few comments about what we have achieved over the last 5 years, what I hope to see happen when I'm gone, and a few thank yous. I'd like to start by thanking my fellow commissioners, Stu, Anthony, and Tom, Chiefs Brian Tween and Mike Grogan, and our treasurer, Jamie Hedstrom, and Secretary Lisa Gutierrez. Stu and Anthony have provided tremendous support over the last few years. They have been on the board, and I could not think of a single time I asked either for help when the answer was not an immediate, whatever you need, Peter. So I do appreciate that. Both Chief Tween and Grogan, while very different in many regards, have both been very effective and supported in helping the board carry out its goals. Jamie and Lisa are both excellent at their jobs, and I very much appreciated their support since they joined the district. As far as accomplishments, I feel very good about a lot of the things we've been able to get done. We have upgraded our facilities and apparatus, hired talented, good people, resolved unnecessary litigation, and made structural changes in how we staff. I have led several significant capital improvement projects during my time on this board. Much remains to be done on that front, but we have made substantial progress. The district also has significantly upgraded our fleet, adding 3 new engines which are scheduled to come online in February. We have hired many talented young men as firefighters, promoted a new chief, and hired excellent people in roles as treasurer, fire district secretary, and maintenance mechanic. I pushed hard for many of these hires, and I can say that their job performance and easygoing manners have made those decisions particularly rewarding. This year, we resolved 2 lawsuits that, quite frankly, should have never come to litigation in the first place. I was also finally able to get support to fully staff our firefighter and captain ranks, a move that I believe will result in both better preparedness and a cost savings to the district over time. As for the future, at a recent meeting, I advocated for establishing reserve accounts earmarked for specific purposes and funding them with unrestricted fund balances that are currently sitting in our general fund. I truly hope this happens, as I believe it creates a necessary safeguard against potential abuse. I also believe it is an issue that the New York State Comptroller would raise in an audit. The fire district's unrestricted fund balances are approximately 40% of next year's budget, an amount far in excess of what is recommended and considered prudent by regulatory authorities. As an example, for school districts, New York State law limits unrestricted fund balances to 4% or less of next year's budget. While there is no such rule yet in place for the fire districts, 40% is excessive and leaves the district vulnerable to abuse. For example, and as I have pointed out repeatedly this year, such funds can be used as a funding source for ongoing recurring expenditures such as excessive overtime. Without that source of funds, the board would be forced to address the root causes of overtime, which may not be justified. Another thing I have recently advocated for but have not been able to make happen is the creation of the position of Fire District Administrator. The Board of Fire Commissioners is comprised of 5 members, each serving a 5-year term. Board composition changes regularly. On this board, there have been 3 new members in the last 3 years. For many incoming commissioners, this is their first stint in government public service, and they have little or no experience with New York State municipal law. Further, commissioner positions are 100% volunteer and often staffed by people with full-time jobs. This makes it very difficult to allocate the time required to effectively run a government entity with 80 employees, 5 firehouses, and an $18 million budget. As I envision it, a fire district administrator's responsibilities would include seeing that state and local laws, resolutions, and rules of the fire district are faithfully executed, exercising supervision over the conduct of all functions and activities of the district and its administrative employees, making reports to the Board of Fire Commissioners about the affairs of the district and recommending to the board any measures he or she thinks necessary or appropriate, keeping the board fully advised of the financial condition of the district and its future financial needs, and conducting a continuing study of all functions and activities of the district to devise ways and means of obtaining greater efficiency and economy. An employee with these responsibilities would help the district run much more efficiently. Assuming this person was retained for an extended period, it would help bridge the inevitable knowledge gap that occurs every time a board member seat turns over. Further, I believe the position would pay for itself by reducing the outsourcing of legal and consulting services. The villages of Tuckahoe and Bronxville both have budgets equal to or less than the fire district, and they have fewer facilities employees. Yet both of these municipal entities have paid administrators for the very reasons I have described here. The good news is that the fire district has identified both someone who could be excellent in that role and an efficient, cost-effective way to fund the position. I would ask the board to fully consider the value of adding such a role and to consult other local leaders on their experience in having such a role in their governments. It's been a pleasure and an honor to serve on this board, and I wish everyone involved with the Eastchester Fire District all the best. Thanks.
Thank you. Good luck to you.
I too want to comment and wish Peter good luck in whatever he does. I hope you come back here, Peter. At any time, you're welcome. Paul, I welcome you here too. It's been a pleasure knowing you, Commissioner Clinton. It took a long time to get working with you, maybe almost a year that I got to work with you and got to know you a little better, and it was a pleasure working with you, and I am thankful for what you've done on this board and what you accomplished and what you solved and what you cleared up, and I praise you for that, Commissioner Clinton, and wish you well, you and your family, and all you do. And on a final note, I just want to let everyone know on Thursday, March 14th, 2019, at the Assumption Church at 7:30, we will be having a memorial service for Vinny Spadaro, our former maintenance assistant from the department who passed away 2 years ago. And we're having a mass at 7:30 on March 14th. So I will be mentioning it again soon. And Chief, I hope you mark it down that we could have everybody there. I went out of my way. I spoke to the pastor of the Assumption Church that if he could do it, and he said we could do it this time, but after that we have to have it in the morning like we had it the first time. I hope we could continue this and keep Vinny's memory on forever and ever. And in closing, I just want to hope that we close this meeting in honor of Pearl Harbor. That was last week, and for President Bush, who passed away, a great leader, and for those poor men who suffered in Pearl Harbor. And at the final note, I just want to wish everybody a healthy, happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and Happy Hanukkah, and a safe one, too.
And I want to make a quick fire safety announcement. You know, it's Christmas time. Everyone's putting Christmas trees in their house. Keep those trees hydrated. You know, we talk about hydrating our athletes. Those real Christmas trees, they dry out and they burn at a very, very high temperature. So make sure that you're keeping them hot with water in the little basket underneath them. And once you see an excessive amount of pine needles on the floor, please get rid of it. Just leave it on the curb. Eastchester Highway Department will pick it up. Do not burn it or dispose of it, especially in a fireplace. Please, Christmas trees are very dangerous. Enjoy them, but dispose of them correctly.
Just a few things. December 6th, this last week, the chief, firefighter Chaffo and firefighter Debitetto joined the Chabad and the town of Eastchester in the second annual menorah lighting and gelt drop. And we were happy to have the engine out there. I just wanted to publicly thank you again for the time. Both you and the other men came to enjoy the event. It was a big success, and we're very thankful that our firefighters were able to take the time out to come out and do that and show the community not only the rig, but also the people who run our district. Number two, just a reminder, like last meeting, the Toys for Tots program by Local 916 is still going on. You can drop off any toys you want, unwrapped, new, at any one of our 5 firehouses or town hall. I've noticed that there are several other Toys for Tots programs going on in the town all of a sudden, which I think is great, because it is a great program, but don't forget 916 is the largest recipient of toys and entity that donates that, so please feel free to do that and stop by a firehouse or town hall and give your toy in the name of the EFD. Third, Jamie and I have spoken about it. It kind of brushes on something that Peter had recently commented on, both the last meeting and tonight. We are hopeful that we will have the broad capital plan for 2019 moving forward available for board review by the reorg meeting in January, and hopefully by February be able to put that as something that we can adopt, at least an initial plan of how we will be looking to spend money moving forward with capital projects, whether they be firehouse, apparatus, or something of a combination, maybe even some internal needs, as we've talked about, IT, telephones, stuff like that. We'll have a powwow. And lastly, I just wanted to echo Anthony's comments and a couple of my own with the, first of all, congratulations to Paul on your election. We look forward to working with you. In respect to Peter's departure, it is a difficult one to move on from. Peter, along with Anthony, of course, when I first joined the board, were 2 commissioners that were more than happy to look at a new member and ask questions and converse and bring about some degree of modesty when it comes to somebody new coming on the board and learning while also joining after an election. And I would say that because of Peter's example and Anthony's example, I will continue to pay that forward as new members come on, to hear them out and try to work with everyone who is up here. I think Peter has demonstrated, though sometimes difficult, his actions were always to make sure that the board was abreast of information and trying to at least give everyone the opportunity to voice an opinion, whether as chairman or as a board member. And I think that's incredibly important, especially for local politics, because we all do live here. And we may have different ideas, but we're all looking for the same end game, which is to make the town better and make the districts better than they are the day when you find them. So I would like to wish Peter good luck moving forward with whatever he may do. I'm sure we will hear from him. It is kind of a tradition that fire commissioners never truly go away. They do keep abreast of what goes on in the district and are not shy to voice an opinion or to bring something up from the outside, if you will. So I do look forward to those days, I'm sure, when we'll see Peter on the other side of the dais asking questions. With that said, I do wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy New Year. And we do look forward to 2019 and to build upon what we've been able to do for the last year specifically. I think is going to be a truly great year. So thank you again, Peter, for your service, along with all of my other board members, the chief, Jamie, Lisa. I know she's not here, but thank you, of course, for all the work you did for the election. I think it was a fantastic effort, and I think everybody saw that, or at least the 178 people did see it. So thank you to everyone, and that's all. That's my report for this year.
Okay. All right. I want to wish everybody a happy and healthy New Year, and I think we're going to close the meeting tonight in remembrance of Pearl Harbor and late President Bush. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.